AITA for letting my niece live a normal teen life after she moved in with me. Even though my brother thinks she should be grounded until she apologizes, I, 28M, never really thought I'd be in a parenting role at this point in my life. My partner, 27M, and I live together, and while we always talked about maybe fostering or adopting one day down the line, we figured that would be a conversation for our mid-30s, not now. But life has a funny way of throwing things at you when you least expect it, and that's how I ended up being the legal guardian of my niece Abby, 15F. Abby is my brother's daughter. My brother, 31M, and I were close as kids, though our relationship as adults has been up and down. He married young, and his wife, Abby's mom, was a genuinely wonderful woman. She passed away suddenly when Abby was 9. It was devastating for everyone, but obviously it hit Abby the hardest. I was only in my early 20s then, and I remember feeling helpless, watching this little girl lose her mom. My brother struggled too, but he remarried when Abby was about 11. I'll be honest, Abby never accepted her stepmother, my SIL. It wasn't explosive all the time, but there was always this undercurrent of tension. Abby would ignore her, dismiss her attempts at parenting, or sometimes openly rebel. I don't think my SIL was a bad person. She just wasn't Abby's mom, and Abby made sure she never forgot that. I don't think my brother really anticipated how deep that wound went for his daughter. Over the years there were incidents, arguments, passive-aggressive comments, slammed doors, but nothing quite like what happened earlier this year. In May, my SIL's birthday came around. My brother threw her a family party dinner, invited extended family, and wanted everyone to celebrate. He asked Abby to write her stepmom a card and give it to her with a gift he had bought from Abby. From what I understand, Abby resisted this at first. She didn't want to give her anything, because she didn't feel love for her. My brother insisted. He thought it was a matter of respect. So Abby wrote something. Except what she wrote. Well, it wasn't what he was expecting. I wasn't there for the party, but multiple family members filled me in afterward. Instead of a polite card, Abby wrote what was essentially a laundry list of all the things she hated about her stepmom. She said she hated her, that she never wanted her dad to marry her, that she'd never be as good as her mom. She compared their looks, saying her mom was prettier. She compared their cooking, saying her mom was better and that others used to compliment her mom's meals, unlike SIL. She wrote that even a million women like her stepmom would never add up to half of her mom. She went so far as to say she was glad that SIL and my brother couldn't have kids together, and that she hoped SIL would never carry a pregnancy to term. That one really shocked people. She also insulted her style, the things she brought into the house, called her ugly, an outsider, and said she'd never love or accept her. She ended by saying she'd be happy if they divorced. From what I heard, people tried to stop her as she was reading it out loud, but she insisted on finishing, saying, "If I'm being forced to give her something, she's going to get the truth." As you can imagine, this blew up. My brother was mortified, angry, and heartbroken all at once. My SIL was humiliated. Some family members called Abby cruel. My brother tried to get her to apologize immediately, but she refused. He punished her, put her on a waiting list for therapy, gave her books, tried talking to her. But she wouldn't budge. After a month with no progress, he said Abby couldn't live in his house anymore, that her presence was toxic for his marriage. That's when my partner and I stepped in. We offered to take Abby in, but only if guardianship was given to us, because we didn't want this to be a week-to-week limbo situation. My brother agreed. So, since June, Abby has been living with us. At first, I'll admit I was nervous. I didn't know what it would be like to parent a grieving, angry 15-year-old. My partner and I both work full-time, though we have flexible schedules. We didn't know if she'd resent us or lash out, but it's actually been surprisingly good. Abby started therapy, a real one this time, not just therapy books. And though she still hasn't apologized or expressed regret about what she said to her stepmom, she seems lighter living here. She said flat out she's happy not to live with SIL. She still sees her dad once or twice a week, usually outside the house. We've been trying to give her structure, but also let her be a teen. She goes to school, does chores, and keeps up with responsibilities. But we also let her go to the movies with friends, have sleepovers, get ice cream, go to the mall. You know, normal teen stuff. We're not showering her with luxuries, but we're not locking her down either. Her therapist has been clear. Forcing an apology or grounding her indefinitely is not the solution. Healing is a long process, and while her words were harsh and painful, they came from a place of grief and anger that needs to be worked through, not punished out of her. Here's where the tension comes back in. My brother has started grumbling to me about how easy Abby has it here. He says that since she basically got her way, i.e., she doesn't have to live with SJL anymore, she should be grounded until she apologizes. He seems to think it's common sense. Like, of course you'd restrict her fun until she does the right thing. He told me she doesn't deserve to have fun, hang out with friends, or live a happy teen life while she's being so stubborn. His exact words were something like, she doesn't deserve to have a fun life if she's going to treat her stepmom like that. I told him flat out. He never said that grounding was a condition of us taking her in. He only said she needed to be in therapy, which she is. And I added that her therapist has specifically said that punishment isn't the way forward here. I even said, half joking but half serious, she could be grounded for 20 years and it still wouldn't make her say what you want her to say. He didn't like that. He said I was undermining him as her father and that I was rewarding cruelty. I told him I wasn't rewarding anything. I was trying to give a hurting kid a chance to breathe and work through things without constant punishment hanging over her head. Now he's sulking, saying I should agree with him, that I should enforce grounding, that I'm spoiling her. Honestly, I don't feel like the bad guy here. Abby's words were horrible, yes. I don't excuse them. But she lost her mom young, watched her dad remarry, and has been carrying around all this grief and resentment that finally came out in one ugly explosion. I think forcing her to play happy family and punishing her every time she refused was what led to that blow-up. Do I think she should apologize someday? Yes, but it needs to come from her, not from being beaten down into submission. I also think about being 15. That's a brutal age already, and Abby has extra baggage. If we locked her in her room and stripped away her friends and her outlets, I'm pretty sure it would backfire. Therapy and a stable home seem like the only real way forward. What eats at me is the dad angle. Am I disrespecting my brother by not enforcing his version of discipline? Am I giving Abby too much leeway? Sometimes I worry I'm too soft, but then I remember the therapist's words and I feel like I'm doing the right thing. Family is divided. Some relatives agree with my brother. They think I'm coddling Abby, that I'm teaching her she can say vile things and still go to the movies the next week. They point out that SIL didn't deserve what was said and that an apology is the bare minimum. Others think my brother overreacted by basically exiling his daughter over this, and that Abby deserves stability. They praise me for stepping up, for not just punishing but trying to help her. A few even admitted that while Abby's words were awful, they were also the words of a grieving kid who's still hurting for her mom. My partner is fully on my side. He's been a rock through this. He thinks my brother is too focused on protecting his wife's feelings and not enough on parenting his daughter through grief. Abby herself has told me she feels like she can breathe here, that she's not walking on eggshells. That makes me feel like we're doing something right. So, AITA for letting Abby live a normal teen life under my roof. Even though she hasn't apologized to my SGL, and despite my brother insisting she should be grounded until she does, I genuinely don't want to undermine my brother, but I also don't think making Abby's life miserable is the answer. AITA? Update. First off, Abby is still in therapy, and I cannot stress enough how much of a difference it's making. At the beginning, she was guarded, almost sarcastic in her sessions. She would come home and roll her eyes, make comments like, "I don't need to talk about my feelings." But then, about 2 weeks ago, I noticed a shift. Her therapist, who's a trauma specialist for adolescents, told me privately that Abby is starting to open up more about her mom, about her anger, and about how alone she felt when her dad remarried. Apparently, she confessed she sometimes feels guilty because part of her wanted to like her stepmom in the beginning, but felt like doing so would be a betrayal of her mom. That guilt festered and turned into resentment. That broke my heart, because it's such a teenager thing to feel, but also such a heavy weight to carry. I think hearing her finally articulate that is huge progress. She's still not ready to apologize to her stepmom, but I can see her at least acknowledging where some of the anger is coming from, and that's more than she's done in years. This is where it gets messy. My brother is still mad at me. He came over about a week after my original post and basically laid into me, saying I was letting her off scot-free. He said SGL cries sometimes because she can't believe a kid could hate her so much, and that every time Abby goes to a movie or sleepover it feels like rewarding cruelty. I tried to explain again what the therapist said, that grounding won't magically make Abby feel remorse. But he doesn't want to hear it. He's stuck on this idea that punishment equals accountability. He even asked me to at least take away Abby's phone until she apologizes. I told him no, that's not how I'm running my house. He accused me of undermining his authority. I reminded him he signed over guardianship and that if he wanted total control, he could have kept her in his house. That was not a fun conversation, but I had to draw the line. This part surprised me. My SIL actually reached out to me directly. She texted me one night saying she wanted to understand what Abby was going through. She admitted she was deeply hurt by the things Abby said, but she also said she knows Abby is still grieving. We ended up having a long phone call, and honestly, I respected her more after it. She said she doesn't expect Abby to love her, but she also doesn't want to be the villain in Abby's story. She asked if I thought family therapy with the three of them, her, my brother, and Abby, would be possible down the line. I told her maybe, not now, but maybe later. I want Abby to have some stability first. SIL agreed, and said she just wants to keep the door open. I think that was the most compassionate response she could have given, and it made me see her side a little more clearly. Day to day, Abby is noticeably lighter here. She laughs more, she sings along to songs in the kitchen when she thinks we're not listening. She's gotten closer to my partner, they bond over video games, and she's even helping cook dinner some nights. She still has sharp edges, don't get me wrong. She can be cutting with her words when she feels cornered. Last week she muttered something like, "Dad probably only visits me out of guilt," which I didn't know how to respond to. But she's not walking around with the constant tension she had in her dad's house. I think having space away from SGL has given her room to process. It's not running away from consequences, as my brother sees it. It's actually creating a space where consequences can be understood. Extended family is still split. A couple of aunts think I'm doing the right thing. My mom, Abby's grandma, is in a weird spot. She loves her granddaughter, but also doesn't want to alienate my brother and Sil. She told me quietly that she thinks Abby needs me more than anyone right now, but she won't say that to my brother because she doesn't want to start a fight. One cousin told me Abby was cruel beyond belief, and that I'm raising a monster. That's dumb. I don't see her that way. I see a hurting kid who lashed out in the only language she knew at the time: anger. I'll be real with you all. This hasn't been easy. Parenting, even part-time, is exhausting. Some days I feel like I'm just making it up as I go. Some days I second-guess every choice, wondering if I'm too soft or too strict, or if I'm accidentally teaching Abby that words don't have consequences. But then there are moments that feel like tiny wins. Like when she laughed so hard at a dumb meme she showed us at dinner. Or when she told me she felt safe in our house. Or when she casually mentioned, "Therapy's not as stupid as I thought." Those are the moments that convince me we're on the right path, even if it's not the quick-fix path my brother wants. Right now, Abby sees her dad about once a week. She's civil with him, though still cold toward Sil. He's pushing me to do more, to force an apology, but I've stopped entertaining that conversation. I told him he needs to talk to Abby's therapist if he wants to understand the process, because I'm not going to be the middleman for his frustration anymore. Abby has said she never wants to live with them again. That's a hard thing to hear, and I don't know what the future holds. Maybe with time, some of that will soften. But for now, my job is to give her stability and let the professionals guide us. So yeah, that's where things are after a month. Not perfect, but better than I feared. Abby is healing slowly. My brother and I are on rocky terms, but I can live with that if it means Abby isn't drowning in punishment and pressure. I know some people will still say I'm enabling her, but from where I stand, I'd rather give her tools to process her grief than hammer her down until she says the words her dad wants to hear.